It's hard to go wrong with gold coins, but if you don't know where to start or you're concerned about making an expensive mistake, well, I have a few tips that I picked up over the last 10 years. And if you don't really need the advice, but you like to look at gold coins, well, I've picked up a few of those too. If you're new to gold, let me just start by saying welcome. Buying gold can seem a little bit mysterious and even a little bit strange before you actually get into it, because it isn't really something that's talked about often, and my hope in making this video is just to demystify it a bit, make it seem a little less strange, and then hopefully save you some money while we're at it, because if you charge into this all Leroy Jenkins style, you can waste a lot of money fast. And I'll also just say that I have made a video similar to this before, but a lot has changed in the last few months, and that affects both price and availability. So my recommendations in that video on what to buy and where to buy them need a few updates. So the first thing you're going to need to know is just simply what to buy, and this varies depending on where you live and what your reasons for buying gold are, but generally speaking, you want the most well-known coins in your region. And you want to find them at the best price possible as well, but those two things don't always go together, unfortunately. Now here in the United States, the U.S. Mint produces the American Gold Eagle and the American Buffalo. And if price wasn't an issue and you lived in the United States, we'd be able to say that either of those two coins would be your top choice. We'd be able to move on. For the last few months though, in the first quarter of 2021, Eagles and Buffaloes have carried a much higher premium than normal, much higher than most other government-backed bullion coins, so you might want to consider a few alternatives. Before we get into those alternatives though, let's just take a look at these two. Now, these coins are similar in a lot of ways. They're both investment grade coins with little to no collector value. So you're effectively paying for the gold content plus a premium that covers the retail costs of producing and selling the coin. Now, both of these coins have 1 ounce of gold content, so they'll cost whatever the spot price of gold is at the time. Today, it's about $1,750. And then you'll pay a premium on top of that of about 6%. Now currently, with everything going on, that premium is more like 11% and higher. And that's why we're going to look at alternatives here in a minute. The primary differences between these two coins are the popularity and the gold purity. And the American Gold Eagle is the most popular gold coin in the world right now, and that claim is based on recent sales figures. The South African Krugerrand would beat it by total historical sales, but if you live in the United States, this is the top gold coin. It's a 22 karat gold coin, so in addition to the 1 ounce of fine gold, it has 8.33% of silver and copper alloy. You don't pay more for that extra metal content. It's there simply to make the coin more durable, since copper and silver are harder metals than gold. American Gold Eagles come in fractional sizes as well. You can find the 1/10 ounce, the 1/4 ounce, and the 1/2 ounce versions of the same coin. And they'll be priced like the full ounce versions divided by the gold content with their own premiums as well. If you want to buy gold but don't want to pay for a full ounce coin, then these are great options. Just as a word of warning though, the smaller the coin, the higher the premium percentage. So you'll pay more for a 1/10 ounce coin than you would for a 1 ounce coin if you were to buy 10 of them and get to the same gold content. So in normal times, when that 1 ounce coin has something like a 6% premium, you might find that a 1/2 ounce will have an 8% premium, a quarter might have an 11%, and a 1/10 might be more like 15%. But again, currently with everything going on, all of those coins are even more expensive than that. It's very common to see premiums as high as 25% on a 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagle right now. So you will save money if you buy the 1 ounce coin rather than 2 1/2 ounce, 4 quarters, or 10/10ths. You get the idea. Now, one other thing to note, the American Gold Eagles are undergoing a design change later this summer, and that won't affect the price of these coins, but they will look a little different in a few months. Now, the American Gold Buffalo is a 24 karat gold coin. That means it's 99.99% fine gold. You can see the color difference pretty clearly. It's a deeper yellow like you'd expect from gold, but it has the same outer dimension as the Eagle, also has the $50 nominal face value, so it's very similar to the Eagle. And just a quick note on that face value, theoretically you can spend these at a store. They're worth about $50 in legal tender, but that is nothing more than a distraction for you. It shows that they're government backed, but you're not going to want to use these at the gas station. Now, the US Mint does not produce fractional buffaloes. They did release some in 2008, but they're not available today. You'd have to buy them on the secondary market, and they would be very expensive. You will be able to find both a normal BU, that means brilliant uncirculated version of this coin, that's the standard bullion coin, as well as a proof. Now, you'll be able to find a proof in both eagles and buffaloes. Proofs tend to be a lot more expensive, particularly if you're buying them directly from the mint. I would say stick with the BU. Now, this coin doesn't have as deep of a history as the American Gold Eagle, but it is very popular here as well. And if you're looking to buy an American coin while living in a country like Canada or a few others that tax 22 karat gold coins, well, this would be the obvious choice. You'll find strong preferences for that 24 karat gold in a lot of other countries, especially Asian countries as well. So you have a few things to consider with these coins, but mostly it's just going to come down to which one you like. Now, if you like the looks of one coin over the other, go with that coin. You'll not have trouble selling either one of these coins if the need arises, but you will want to consider that since the buffalo is 24 karat gold, it is softer and it should be kept in a capsule that will prevent it from getting scratched or dented. Now, I'll have some links to those capsules in the descriptions as well, so you don't have to go searching for those. Either of these coins, they're going to be a great option. Now, the main reason a person who lives in the US would consider anything other than these two coins really comes down to a logical reason of price or an emotional reason, like you just like something else, because there are fun alternatives. The reason I say that the price is really the only logical reason, though, is that you typically won't get back the premium in a sale. So if you buy a gold buffalo at 11% premium, you'll pay about $1,944 today. Again, that's based on a $1,750 spot price, give or take. But if you sell that, you might not get much more than spot price back. Depending on the buyer, maybe you'll get 1%, maybe 2% over. So you could see a loss of 10% if you turned around and sold that coin back to a local shop in a quick sale. That's just something to consider. Now, spot price does increase over time, but you should always be aware that if you bought a gold coin and turned around and sold it the next day, you'd probably lose some money. Now, I just think everyone should have an idea of what a sale would look like before they buy, and if you aren't comfortable selling to a private buyer in person or online through a site like eBay or Facebook, then a local coin shop is probably going to be the most likely buyer. That's not a terrible thing, by the way. It's a little like trading in a car at a dealership rather than selling it yourself. You won't get as much in the sale, but it's less hassle. So when I say that you might only get back 1% or 2% over the spot price of the coin, that would be your worst case scenario. And even that sounds a little harsh, but the lowest price is probably going to come from a local coin shop. Again, that sale will be very easy though. Okay, so with all of that in mind, I'm going to show you a few other options that could potentially minimize any potential losses in a quick sale or maximize the gains over a longer time frame. In other words, I'm going to show you some cheaper options, and then I'll tell you which ones I recommend, all things considered. So let's start with the Canadian gold maple leaf. Now, because they're a close neighbor, that's going to make them more popular here in the United States. It's also just one of my favorites. Now, this is another 24 karat 1 ounce pure gold coin. The Canadian maple leaf was the first pure gold bullion coin available. It was introduced by the Royal Canadian Mint in 1979, and there have only been minor changes to the design over the years. So just like the buffalo and the eagle that I've already shown, the year the coin was minted really doesn't mean much to its value, but there are a few aesthetic improvements and safety features that have been added to the newer coins. In 2013, the Royal Canadian Mint added these micro-engraved marks, and then in 2015, the Mint added radial lines as well. Now that makes them harder to counterfeit, but it also gives the coin this cartwheel effect when the light hits it just right. It's a gorgeous coin, and they are popular worldwide. Now here in the United States, you'll pay a little less premium than you will for the eagle or the buffalo, and you'd get back slightly less in a sale to a local coin shop. There's also a very specific tax law if you sell more than 25 ounces of these Canadian maple leafs here in the United States in one transaction. But if you're new to gold, I'll just assume that that doesn't apply to you. You're not going to have to worry about 25 ounces of these. And if you do want to know more about that tax law, the 1099-B form, I do have a video on capital gains taxes. And I feel like this is getting really long, so this is probably a good time to tell you that I've posted all kinds of videos talking about gold. That includes the video that I mentioned being similar to this one. And if you want to continue down the rabbit hole, be sure to hit my channel page. Again, there are a lot of videos there. All right, other options. The United Kingdom's Royal Mint has put out a fantastic coin for a low price. They actually put out a few, but I'm going to focus on their primary coin, the Britannia. Now, this has always been a great looking coin, but in 2021, the Royal Mint added new security features that make it incredibly difficult to counterfeit. And if you live in the UK, this coin and anything else from the Royal Mint actually should be at the top of your list, since they're exempt from capital gains taxes there. Now, everywhere else, you should just see this as a great looking 24 karat gold coin that's relatively well recognized and very difficult to counterfeit. So it is not as popular as the US Mint coins. It's not as popular as the Canadian Maple Leafs, the South African Krugerrands, or the Australian Harmonics even, but any local coin shop would happily buy them from you. And with the new security features, they are gaining in popularity. Now, on top of the aesthetics and new security features, the 1 ounce version of this coin can typically be found at a 5% premium. So that means that it's going to beat the price of just about any other modern gold bullion coin available. Another modern coin that would rival the Britannia on price is going to be the Australian Kangaroo. I don't actually have one to show you, so I grabbed a Swan. Now, this is another gold coin produced by the Perth Mint. And Australia actually has 2 large mints, but the Perth Mint is the more popular of the 2. The Kangaroo can typically be found for about that 5% premium as well. Now, it doesn't have the security features the Britannia has, and it's again not as popular as the other coins that I just mentioned, here in the United States at least. But the Perth Mint is well known for producing very high quality gold coins. We're going to come back to some of those other options in a minute. And both the Kangaroos and the Britannias are also available in fractional sizes. Now, other options that you'd have would be coins like the Krugerrand or Philharmonic that I just mentioned. They are among the most popular in the world. You can typically find either of those coins at a low premium, and both are very well known, so if you were to sell them, it would be very easy. There are a lot of other options, like the Mexican Libertads or the Chinese Pandas, for instance, and people would complain if I didn't mention them. But those coins fall lower on my list of recommendations for a few reasons. If you can find either of them at a good price and have a specific reason that you like them, whether that's for the culture behind them or the local availability, I would never rule them out. So before we come back to final recommendations, I wanted to get a few points out on how and where to buy the gold coins. Now, I always recommend starting at a local coin shop if you have one. Normally, you're going to save premium since the online dealers price in shipping and credit card fees if you go that route. But local dealers have been struggling with inventory lately. And I think this is going to be a short-term thing. So if you do have a local coin shop, definitely call them and ask what they have for inventory. And then also ask their price on something, say like a Canadian Maple Leaf. That'll give you an idea of what their premium is. Now, if they don't have inventory or they're asking far too much for those coins, or you're just more comfortable buying online, you have a lot of options there as well. And in my last video, I mentioned AppMex, SD Bullion, and JM Bullion. Now, all 3 of those are great options, and I will add links to those in the description. But what I've been finding is that with availability where it is right now, I'm having to look at multiple dealer sites to find what I want. I've had good luck lately with silver, gold, bull, and bullion exchanges, and I'm not going to go into any of them specifically except to say that AppMex tends to be the one with the most inventory, the quickest shipping, and the highest prices. So if inventory, shipping speed, and price are the 3 criteria that you're working from, you'll find that you only get to pick 2 at each site. Some have inventory and low prices, but they're slow. Some will have low prices and quick shipping, but they only have a few options. You might have to shop around a little bit. All right, as you get online, what you're going to find is that there are hundreds of different options of gold coins and bars that you can buy. A lot of them are obscure enough, though, that I wouldn't recommend them if you're new. You will hear people say that gold is gold, but I don't personally believe that based on past experiences selling gold coins. I was very familiar both with the local shops and with eBay, but my experience selling sovereigns and 20 francs roosters was still a lot more work than my experience selling American gold eagles. Just something to consider. Now, if that doesn't concern you in any way, you will be able to find old European coins like sovereigns and 20 francs roosters for a lower premium than modern gold bullion coins. Now, bars, it's another lower premium option that I don't personally recommend for you initially, at least not here in the United States. Buyers are simply more skeptical about bars, and while you might hypothetically want to verify any gold purchase, whether that's a coin or not, I've never been concerned when buying a well-known government-backed coin from a well-respected dealer. Newer coins are just harder to copy, and there are serious penalties for counterfeiting government coins. So to close this out with the recommendation on which gold coins I think you should start with, I'll say that there are ideal choices and there are practical choices. There are even some fun choices. But in general, you want to start with the most popular coins in your region. So here in the United States, that is the American Gold Eagle, followed by the American Gold Buffalo. And if you're buying in the first quarter of 2021, though, you're going to find that the premiums on Eagles and Buffaloes are higher than 10%. And if that's the case when you're looking, I would recommend considering one of the other government-backed coins. You can find those at more like 5% premium. So if Eagles and Buffaloes are too expensive, I personally look at Canadian Maple Leafs. If Canadian Maple Leafs are too expensive, I look at Britannia's. You can make a case for any of the coins that I've mentioned here today, and some people will, but if you simply don't know where to start, I would just say start with those 4 options. What I personally try not to do is just buy randomly. Now, 90% of my gold coins are American Gold Eagles or Buffaloes. If I lived in Canada, 90% of my coins would be Canadian Maple Leafs. If I lived in South Africa, it would be Krugerrands, and if I lived in Australia, it would be Kangaroos. Again, you get the idea. I just find that variety makes selling more difficult, so any of these less well-known coins really need to jump out at me before I'll buy them. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't buy them for yourself, just know that they will cost more and potentially sell for less. And if that does not concern you, well, again, you have a lot of fun options. All right, so this was a longer video than most, so I'm going to call it good right there. And like I mentioned previously, I'm going to have details and links in the description. If you want to know more about gold coins, be sure to check out the videos on my channel page and also be sure to subscribe. I'm going to be watching the comments, so feel free to leave any questions you have or just let us know what your preferences are. I know there are going to be differences of opinion. If you found any of this at all interesting, I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button. That helps get the word out on this topic. Either way, thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. Take care.